When you guys got sleep divorced, did you fear that might be a slippery slope?
So Raven, how do I even say this?
Want me to
my
say it?
wife, no, my wife is different. She's not your average person by any means.
Check the receipts.
Raven-Symoné.
Raven-Symoné.
Raven-Symoné, co-host of Tea Time with Raven and Miranda.
I love you so much.
I love you too.
And I just had a moment where I was like, we just need separate bedrooms. Like, let's just do it. Like, it will make, and so I came to Raven and I said, I think we should have separate bedrooms.
My jaw dropped because I was not expecting my typically anxious personality style wife to present this because of all the conversations that we had in the past. And I was hesitant. I thought it was a trick.
Yes, she was like the best sex of my life.
Was that a surprise to you?
I mean, on camera, look at her, she red.
Because
Not to squeeze to get into North Carolina.
No, because we had really great sexual, like we have.
Okay, babes, okay, you said it. I'm getting embarrassed now, stop.
There's so many people I know who are holding relational secrets from their partner for things that they know that they deeply need, but there's a deep fear that if they act on this need, then they'll lose the love that they have.
To create a relationship that is safe for your own nervous system takes strength to actually go against the grain.
Real quick, my absolute worst nightmare has finally come true and not on the day I wanted it to.
Hi lovers. This episode is unique because we shot it twice, back to back. And although the first time that we shot it, it was a rich and meaningful and incredible conversation, we didn't hit record in the audio, which means it would have sounded like this.
It started with fear. So when we would get into an argument, not positive discussion, I have a problem staying around because I'm an avoidant. Period. I avoid things. I'm like, I need break and I need space in order to think properly so I can come back and have a rational conversation. And when we were in the throes of things, there would be times where I'm just like, it's too much. I just need to, let me just go sleep in another room. And there would be times where she was like, oh my God, the relationship is gonna be ruined. Oh, this is crazy. I was always told that if you slept in another bedroom, I was like, we're 1 year in, calm down. Nothing's gonna happen, you know what I mean? This is just because we're figuring out each other and I'm an avoidant and you're an attachment and I'm not going anywhere. When we got a new house, when he moved in, I was like, okay, so like once a week, I just need to sleep in my own space so I can like fart and like just be in my bed, you know what I mean? Just do what I need to do, you know what I mean? And so
Once a week you're farting? Wow.
just once.
Yeah.
Just once a week.
So yeah, that was a little embarrassing, but thankfully I was in the company of very gracious and professional guests, Raven-Symoné and her wife Miranda, who host their podcast Tea Time, and they said, let's just do it again. Twice as nice. Second time around, it's going to be even better. I also came up with a brand new term called Monoga-mix that was inspired by this conversation. I'm going to talk more about it at the end of the episode. But right now, let's get into this conversation with Raven and Miranda. Just to clarify, are you going to be mixing audio or we just need something brand new right now?
I would like something brand new.
Okay.
I would like to start now. Let's do this.
All right. Well,
This will be my last job.
no, it will not be. This is life. I think that having recorded a fake interview that doesn't happen is such a great metaphor too for marriages in general. Just, that's it. And hey, are we gonna give up on each other or just gonna keep it going? So thank you for keeping this going.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. I'm happy to have you. And I am so thrilled to talk about with you all the concept of staying together and finding your freedom and finding your right within your relationship, particularly because we actually started dating 10 years ago too. Yeah, so we have that in common in terms of the time that we spent together. And Raven, we never met before, but in 2016, I was on The View.
My question's from millennials, I guess. There's a stage between that's not really dating and not really in a relationship, but I guess some people can call it talking. It's kind of that gray area where you don't really know what you are, you're undefined. I'm curious if that's just a way for millennials to cop out of, committing.
It is true for a lot of people. A lot of people find themselves in that like gray space and they're not happy there. But the joy is that you could be happy somewhere else and find the right fit. And that's why I think the millennial way kind of is, where it's like there's no one size fits all anymore. I am in a relationship with someone that I live with that's an open relationship, and I'm extremely happy and fulfilled in that space.
What do you mean by that, an open relationship?
You know, like there's
That
a
doesn't
courtesy.
mean that you can go out with someone else.
You can be polyamorous.
I could be polyamorous.
I personally could not do it. I would be jealous. Could you do it?
House of
Could you
Cards.
do that?
It is like on House of Cards. That's how Francis
But could you do that?
Could I do? No,
you could.
I
I could do that.
absolutely not. I just have a fundamentally, completely different way of viewing sex and relationships and marriage than you do.
I think I'd be so jealous.
And I just remember thinking to myself, I wish that Raven was here.
I would have held
She
your
would have
back.
your back.
I would have had your back. I know all the ladies. I'd be like, ladies, calm down. Everybody wakes up one morning and be like, dang, I wish I was looking at another face right now. But it's okay.
Oh my
I got
God.
you, boo.
Babe.
Just not now. I love you, babes, every time.
They
every morning.
probably were scared by what you were saying, though. It probably felt threatening, and I feel like most people who hear things that are so different than the norm, their initial response is fear, and therefore it can look like anger or judgment, but really they're just scared of hearing that somebody is existing in a happy space in something that is totally different than what we've been taught is okay.
Absolutely. And that fear also comes because they think it's contagious.
Yep.
So they're like, my partner might want to do this. And I think that fear also comes from, I think it's like, how dare you? Because when we've been living by the rules, and in many cases suffering because of these rules, and we see somebody else break out of that, we're like, well, why do you get to do that?
Yes. Yeah.
You shouldn't get to do that.
Immediately, I would agree with you 100%, especially on a panel like that. I love The View. Whoopi's my auntie. We love Whoopi. But some of the other panelists throughout the years have had such a conservative view on relationship in their cisgendered worlds, and that is threatening to them because I know I'm going to speak for both of us, but our view of relationships growing up have not been good. Like the role models that we grew up with, just like, ugh, you know? So to create a relationship that is safe for your own nervous system takes strength to actually go against the grain. Because I know before I started getting into my true self, which is, dating females, I was just doing the same thing that I heard my mom doing, that I heard other friends doing, and I'm just like, I am so irritated right now. I'm like...
Irritated while being in a relationship.
Being in a relationship, like extremely unhappy after my first one. My first one lasted for like 7 years, but after my first one, just like, what am I doing here? And kind of turning into this like, quote unquote black widow, just enjoying the breakup afterwards and like how badly I can hurt this person. Anyway, and so when I got into more female relationships and like, okay, first of all, I'm in a female relationship, so I feel more safe and comfortable, 1. 2, no one taught me how to be in this. So I can literally do things that make me feel comfortable, and that's how I really found myself. And then being with Miranda, other doors opened for me in our first years together back in 2015. I told her a lot. I'm like, I act different when I'm around you. I act in a way that I actually like myself. I'm not performing like Raven-Symoné. I'm performing like the nickname that she has for me. And it's just freedom, And it's, other people would look at it and be like, what the fuck are you doing?
I have to say, though, that I have sat on both sides where I have reacted out of total fear in hearing somebody do something. Like, I've been that person who has heard someone say, like, oh yeah, I'm in an open relationship. And I'm like, ew, no, what? And I have reacted that way solely because I'm afraid that my partner might then want that, and that means that I'm being left. Or there have been, movie scenes even that I will watch, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but like, I'll see something and it'll make me have a fear response because I'm like, if my partner sees that, maybe they'll get that idea and then they'll want that thing or they'll want that position or whatever the fuck it is, and I don't know if I can deliver. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Wait, what? Oh, not that kind of movie? Got it.
Whatever. I'm just saying, like...
what you talking about, babe?
I'm just saying that
Turn the cameras off.
I can now, and now as somebody who has moved, I think, from a very anxious attachment into a more secure space in myself, I can see where I was reacting just that way, and how now securely, if somebody's talking about this, that, or the other, what they do or what they like or how they've done this or what, I'm okay with it. But there was a point in time where I was so nervous that even somebody talking about like people who would disparage their partners, you know, I'd have such a kind of upset response where I'd be like, no, normalize talking positively about your wife. Now, if you want to talk shit about your wife, like that just looks shitty on you to me, but I'm not having an actual response where now I'm afraid that my partner is going to take on your verbiage. And that's
a huge come up.
It's a huge come up for me. Yeah, it's a lot more, it's so much more freedom and just ease. But I think that, you know, it's unfortunate that people, instead of reacting with curiosity and interest, we are almost like just our hair trigger response is to respond with fear and judgment.
Are you still in an open relationship?
Sorta.
Okay.
It depends who's asking, Raven. You know, I just gotta get. Well, it depends who's asking, Miranda and Raven.
I asked that because, do you find that you are a better person?
Oh my gosh, 1000%. And just even talking about self-abandoning in order to be in a relationship, because you feel like a relationship is a one style, one mold, and then you get into it and you're like, I am stuck. I am stuck in a version of a dynamic that's supposed to make me happy, that I actually betrayed all the things that I enjoyed in order to get here. So that to be said, non-monogamy doesn't necessarily even just mean the exploration of sex with somebody else, but it's just delighting in the fact that I am a connecting human being who likes flirting, who likes seduction, who likes sex, and I have those conversations with tons of people. So I think that getting to keep that part of myself and be in a relationship was like the wow factor.
Yeah.
It kind of goes to what I say. I tell people that are getting into relationships and my friends, I'm like, don't forget why you got into that relationship in the first place. You were a whole human being before you met this person, and that's why they liked you. They liked that flirtiness to it. They liked what you were getting yourself into. And this is like a super watered down version, but what I'm hearing is like, you're keeping that version of you alive that your partner enjoyed. And you are also, are you more emotionally attached to your, I guess, number one compared to your number two, or what does that look like?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we haven't like gotten to that. We have the most boring non-monogamous relationship, y'all. So I almost hate talking about it sometimes. So I'm like,
sorry.
I think people want more than what I have to give.
Which is beautiful, though.
Right.
Normalize it.
Right. It's normalizing the vanilla non-monogamy. You know, so I think that it's just, again, even the idea that I can is very important to me. For you too, what I loved about hearing about your relationship dynamic and how, when we talked on the phone, you know, Miranda, for you, like abandoning all the things that you thought it should be in order to embrace what it actually needs to be. And even though what it needs to be was fear-based for you, you get here and you're like, wow, this is actually something spectacular. And maybe you actually found more of yourself
in the journey.
Yeah.
I think she did.
I think I did too. I think that what I've realized is that a lot of my thought process before was so rooted in fear and anxiety, so rooted in the idea that I'm going to be abandoned if I don't do X, Y, and Z, that I wasn't listening to my actual self. I wasn't honoring my truth. I wasn't, you know, secure enough in certain situations to say, oh, you're going out with friends tonight? Like, I'm going to stay home and chill and take a bath and go to bed early because that sounds really lovely to me. I would force myself to go. And I was only going out of fear of something bad happening, and I was then more like a babysitter because I wasn't enjoying the moment, because the true version of, or like my truth.
Oh no, I was the babysitter for you, babes.
My truth was I want to be home in the bath doing my thing. And honestly, it was like, but to live in that space in myself was almost, it's like self-punishment. Like it's self-sabotage in a way, because what I would then do indirectly is I was always ending up in scenarios where I looked like a downer, or I looked like a bummer, or a person who didn't want to be there, and then I wasn't like the fun person. And this is like even before relationships for me. I mean, this was something that started at such a young age, but I was always in discomfort as a result, because when you don't actually honor your truth and you're living outside of your own authenticity, you end up just resenting, or you're irritated, or you're uncomfortable, and then you're not showing up as your best self, and you're not happy to be where you are. And it's kind of a gnarly cycle. But the beautiful thing with us, and considering that Raven is my longest relationship now to date, I've gotten to kind of go through those levels of self-exploration, self-discovery, have those moments where I'm like not the best version of myself and I feel completely embarrassed and vulnerable and humiliated in front of her, and then have to work through it still, you know, and she's been
I'm not going nowhere.
Exactly. So that is the beautiful thing. When you have somebody that you're dialed into and locked in with, you actually, I think, have the ability to do a lot of healing.
You know, we talked about this too, and one of the things we did bring up was that, like, when she got married, she wanted to just find a relationship so she could feel secure. I wanted to get married because I was tired of that little bug in my head, like, I have to find a partner, I have to find a partner. I was already secure in work, I already did that, but it was just like
I just have to stop you. I didn't want to just get married to find a relationship and be secure.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Take that out. What do you want to get married for?
I wanted to get married to you because
Not to me. Why'd you go and get married? What is it about marriage?
Oh, okay.
Not
sure.
to me.
I thought you were talking about to you. I wanted.
No, I didn't say to
no.
me.
Okay, go on.
So you were right.
I didn't say to me.
Well, I think you said when she wanted to get. I don't know what you said. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
So marriage was appealing to me because I knew if I found someone to get married to that I would want to spend my life with, I didn't have to worry about finding someone to spend I wouldn't have to worry about the dating scene. I wouldn't have to worry about that. I'd feel secure in that area. Miranda has her own reasons for wanting to get married. But as soon as I got married, something that came across the table for both of us, she was like, my shoulders just fell.
When you got married?
When I got married. And she's like, what's going on? I said, this is all I ever needed. I just needed to know that I had someone there to have my back so that I could tell the world, so that I can go about my work and know I'm coming home to someone, know that I'm sharing my life with someone, and I'm happy it's you because I trust you, I know you, I understand you, and I can go through my worst and my best with you, and I'm happy it's you and no other crazy people that I was dating beforehand. And so it's a security that, yes, I love her, and yes, I'm in love, but it was more than that to me. I was just flailing in this world. You know, I never really talked about any of my relationships before I got married. It was very secretive because people out here in these streets, you know what I mean? It's like I've had great relationships and bad relationships, but there's something about marriage that made me feel like, no, I can tell the world that I am stable.
It was more secure.
It was security.
And I think the thing too with marriage.
First of all, what a love letter just now, though.
That was a love letter. That was a love letter. Thank you, baby.
That she almost was like, River.
No, the thing that I don't know what that was.
Marriage. That's what it was. It was marriage.
Sometimes I have to just speak because if I don't, I'll lose it and then I'm fucked. But the thing.
All right, take that out.
About marriage, they don't. You keep that in. I think that was great. That was me being truthful. You, depending upon how old you are when you get married, you are going to go through a lot with that person. Like you're going to lose your parents with that person. You're going to, go through, you might become sick with that person. Like there's so many things that could happen. And I think when you're assessing your partner, you have to think about that too. Like, how does this person show up for me? It's not really like...
Not just what's happening in the bed.
Yeah, exactly. It's not what this person is going to look like when they, meet me at the altar. It's what is this person going to... How is this person going to respond based off of what I know of them when I'm at my worst moment, or when I'm in a scary place, or when I might lose my job, or my dad dies, or, my sister gets sick. Like any of those things are also really important to kind of assess when you're looking at your partner. I think for Raven and I, we both understood pretty early on into meeting that we ticked a lot of those major boxes for each other. Mm-hmm. And that, like, yes, she was like the best sex of my life, or what should I not say was?
Was that a surprise to you?
I mean, on camera, look at her, she red. Look at her.
Well, because I said
she already pink, but now she red.
Because I said was, and I thought
I'm not tripping over past tense. I was and still am.
Okay, so
give me all the tenses.
Because
not to squeeze and get into North Carolina.
Yeah.
No, because we had really great sexual. Like we have.
Okay, babes. Okay, you said it. I'm getting embarrassed now. Stop.
I'm just saying that existed in our relationship. That exists in our relationship, and we also checked the other boxes.
And so when we decided to sleep in separate rooms, it strengthened our lust and like.
And how often we text each other. Because now we get to text each other goodnight.
Do you text each other goodnight now?
So why don't you tell the story about it? How I wouldn't say goodnight, and you were so offended.
This is a whole different story, but
so offended.
Like,
and now I say goodnight more.
Last night I did text her because I was on a phone call until like 11:45, and she
I was in my art
painting.
cove. Yeah. Yeah, we text each other goodnight.
So Raven, how do I even say this?
Want me to say it?
wife, no, my wife is different. She's not your average person by any means.
Check the receipts.
So I'm a type of person who likes to say good morning and good night in person with eye contact and a hug and a kiss to my person. It felt important to me. It felt something like, you know, if you're traveling and I'm traveling, the rule is we must say goodnight to each other. And Raven was like, why? Why? And I said, I don't know why, but I just want this thing. Can you give this? And I didn't have a reason, because the reason was just, this is what I've always done. I don't know. It's what fucking people do.
Then for me, right? So if we're sleeping in the same bed, and I'm in the bed, I'm with you all day, and I say goodnight,
it's just too much.
Too much.
The expectation is far too high.
Jesus. So now that we're in separate beds, we come up. This is a cute routine. We walk up the stairs together. The little dog is following us. We have a kiss at the staircase. Good night. And then we go to our separate rooms. That makes sense to me because my childhood, I was forced to say good morning and good night to my parents like it was work. It didn't come from a space of love. It came from a mandatory, you're a kid, this is what you have to do. Say good morning to me every morning because I'm, you know what I mean? So it felt more like a job for me. I say good morning to everyone on set. Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning. My wife, I'm like, hey babes, how was your night?
Mm-hmm.
That to me is, no, it's not the same thing.
It's like salutations, you know, it's just like.
To me, it's more real. To me, not using those two words is a little triggering for me.
But I didn't need those two words. I just needed some form of acknowledgement. That's all I'm saying.
You got an acknowledgement. I say, what'd you dream about?
Yeah, then that's so sweet. And I'm so happy with that.
To me, those mean more to me than good morning, good morning, good morning. And then I use that for those times when I'm gone for a while or you don't see me. It's like, it means more to me.
Understood.
There's something to these like mandatory relationshiping things that I'm just like, that's not me, I can't do it. Mm-hmm. I can't do it.
Well, because you have to do what everybody else. It's like, can there just be one space where I can be authentic?
Yeah. I would say, again, it's from my past relationships, knowing that humans are humans and things happen and situations go down. And if I'm always going to show up the best that I can in every scenario. Sometimes I might not show up the way you want me to, but I'm always going to show up to where I can say, hey, I did this. Because I actually love you like a human, not as the object that I've married, not as, you know, an overly fucking beautiful, sexy woman. No, I married a human and I'm respecting your autonomy on this planet as you go. I've seen so many relationships that divorce and the women are like, I have no life. I don't know what to do with myself. Yeah. I have no money. He was my, I'm like, girl, get your life. Girl, were you not single before you met him? Where were you? Where'd you go? What happened to you? Get up and get going. You know what I mean? And I don't ever want to be in that position. I wouldn't want her to be in that position either if worse comes to worse and something stupid happens, which nothing will happen.
I also think, though, that it's personality. It's personality, but it's also like product of your, okay, how do I say this? So Raven has been independent in an unusual way from a very young age because of her career.
And my family.
And I think that when you have that level of independence financially and you are also kind of like a provider from such a young age, within yourself, you have learned not to rely on others. So I think that, like, for me, for example, how I grew up thinking was, once I get married, like I'll be safe. Like once I find my person, I'll be secure. So I put so much weight on that, and I put very little attention on cultivating myself independently and building my own self-esteem and building my career and blah, blah, blah. Like all of those things were secondary to me. My sole focus for the longest time was just like getting into a relationship, because then I felt like I'd be secure, and then I felt like I could do all the things I wanted to do for myself. And really what that is, if you look at it appropriately, is that is a very fucked up little girl who came from a broken household, who never had the security in her house to learn that she could leave the nest and then come back to something stable. So I was outsourcing it in a relationship. And that was just, my circumstance. But I think that you have a unique position and perspective because you were able to be that independent. And she also knows that like she's relied on herself from basically day one. And not a lot of people have that experience. There are people who obviously do,
That's
but
a fair
like,
reason.
yeah, like you can
and I'm
say,
bomb, and so are you. Like you just have to know your bomb sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. But I think it's more than
welcome.
just you're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Period.
When you guys got sleep divorced, did you fear that might be a slippery slope into a life of independence?
No, I didn't actually, and I probably would have at a different time. And there were so many things that happened leading up to this. I mean, honestly, from the time that Raven and I have known each other, she's always been a funny sleeper, and she's always kind of had to take a night or two away here or there, or she'll just like end up, we're watching a movie, she falls asleep, I don't wake her up, and then she sleeps on the couch type of thing. So that has been in our relationship for a very long time. But I think that I came to a point in myself with the sleep conversation where I was kind of over it. I was kind of tired of hearing the different excuses, like the bed's not comfortable. Okay, well, we bought a new goddamn bed for you that is on, it has triptonic, this, that, whatever, but now it's not going to...
I miss it. I don't have my bed. I do miss it.
Okay.
It's still your bed.
It's still my bed.
Your bed, technically. But, we got the new
Not
bed.
technically.
Technically, you're right.
We got the new bed. We got a bed. We bought a new house that had a master bedroom that wasn't above a garage. We have a really fucking sick thermostat. We have the weighted blankets, and still she would need this, that, and the other. So I got to a place where I was like, okay, I'm sick of this. I'm not gonna have that conversation anymore. Then in designing our room, we had such different aesthetics. I was kind of like, well, I really want this here. She wants this there, blah, blah, blah. And I just had a moment where I was like, we just need separate bedrooms. Like, let's just do it. Like, it will make... And so I came to Raven and I said, I think we should have separate bedrooms.
My jaw dropped because I was not expecting my typically anxious personality style wife to present this because of all the conversations that we had in the past. And I was hesitant. I thought it was a trick. You know what I mean?
could tell that she thought I was tricking her.
I was like, why do you ask? She was like, well,
why do you suggest such a thing?
Why do you suggest such a thing? So literally, and then I was like, well, if you want to, if that's what you want to do, I'll do whatever you want. Happy wife.
Happy wife.
Happy wife.
And so because I had gotten to that place, there was no fear in my mind that this was going to be a road to disaster. There was no secondary thought that this meant like now Raven and I are going to be such separate beings that we will have lost our connection to each other. No.
We found that the connection got stronger.
Because now like we snuggle up on the couch when we watch TV. It's kind of cute to do like sleepover nights. Yeah. It's just I don't know, it's fun. It's good for right now.
This is like, there's so many scenarios that I can think of right now from, well, my life is just holding people's relational secrets. But there's so many people I know who are holding relational secrets from their partner for things that they know that they deeply need. But there's a deep fear that if they act on this need, then they'll lose the love that they have. Not that you can look into everyone's life and give advice, but for anybody who has that fear, that fear of something new could mean something dear to me is going to end, what would you offer them? And not even something new, something authentic. Like if I really brought my truth, then you would leave.
But if they give you pushback and then you say, let me come back to that topic in a few months and say it again, because you do have to also respect that something new that's you've been holding for a while, it's just going to take someone a little bit of time to digest.
It's very important.
And they might not be able to give you what you need 1000% how you want it, but you can get it in spurts, and eventually that person will get there. And you also have to present the fact that, why don't you tell me something so we can both be on this trajectory of authenticity together. right? So I might need to sleep different. I might want to see her, you know, in one of them little pleated skirts every night. You know what I mean? Like, we just have to work towards the future.
Understood. She wants me to dress up like Alicia Silverstone and fucking Clueless. Understood. You can actually be with a person who is your right person, but they are blocked by their own insecurity or fear, so therefore they can't get there yet. So I think it's really important to like temperature check the situation. And if it is a scenario where you're like repeatedly asking for something and this person can't give it to you, then okay.
Then okay.
But I think we're very quick to leave nowadays. I think people are very quick to jump to conclusions of like, oh, this is just not right. This is too hard. It's like, no, relationships are hard. Relationships take a lot of work and energy and effort, and that's okay. I think people pull away from that, and people also expect relationships to look a certain way. That is not true. Like, you're two individual humans learning how to do this thing together. You're also an individual learning how to do your own shit on your own, and there's going to be quiet, still patches. There's going to be boredom. There's going to be days where you're just tired of each other, but you have to have that foundation strong enough to be able to weather those moments.
You have to have
to
a
reach
goal.
the goal.
You know what I mean? Do you have a goal in your
Or
relationship?
a purpose. I think
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
purpose better than goal.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a goal together. I mean, it's to do life together.
Yeah.
And to weather the storm of life together, and to do life as pleasurably and as authentically and as expansively as possible together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people forget the goal because of all of the wet blankets that get put on you in conversations and triggering. And, you know, I was going to say, so I'm learning how not to cut her off because she has such good ideas. And I'm like, yeah, me too, hold on. So if you see me like, that's because I'm like trying to cut in, but babes, aren't you proud of me?
So
anyway,
good, baby.
She said relationships are work. And a lot of people say that. And then people that aren't in relationships are like, what are you talking about? It's a love fest. It's like, no. When you're in a real relationship, you are facing yourself as your childhood self. Your partner is, you know, mirroring a mother or father figure that you've been going through, or some type of parental figure, because you're in the house the same way you were when you were being raised, or whatever your childhood experience was. And it requires a lot of mental agility to not repeat the BS that you went through. Or if you're repeating good things, that might be different for that person. So the work is actually to create a better you through those trials and grow up again. Like, I find that we are growing up again.
Yeah.
I think that's why we needed to have separate beds, because the only way you grow is to sleep. You know, the best growth spurts come when you're sleeping. The healing comes when you're sleeping. And if I'm over here looking to the left and I can't breathe because I'm cold and you like 7 blankets and I don't, I gotta go. You know what I mean? But it's the work. And I think that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I just needed a separate bedroom so I wasn't getting woken up multiple times and getting like sideswiped and then rolled over onto and all that. Like this every night. Like she is a furnace.
I literally sleep with a weighted blanket because I like heaviness.
I think that Raven also doesn't really realize, like, I'm relatively petite. She thinks we wear like the same size clothes. She thinks that we're like the same. So when
Babes,
you are
you're not relatively petite. You are petite.
okay, but so you do recognize it, because when she's on top of me, she acts like you come in like a whole linebacker.
You know,
like
I'm relatively medium. I'm definitely a large medium.
She's just those
relatively
those bones
between large and medium.
Those bones, man, they are heavy. Like she could.
I am big boned. You right? You like
Yeah, I like
a
it.
closing thought before I get to you guys and find out all the cool things you guys are up to, because I was having this conversation actually recently about dating, that a lot of people don't necessarily date to find their person. They date to not look stupid.
That part.
They date to make sure that person protects their boundaries. They date to make sure no one tries them. Like, that's their primary objective. And they'll do those things like, I'm not gonna look dumb. And that's the main goal. If they meet somebody, then that's great, and that's second bonus. But I think a lot of people in marriages, or in relationships, their primary goal really isn't all that clear, because the primary goal is to pacify their insecurities. Their primary goal is to make sure that their fears don't become realized.
Yep.
But if the goal is something different, then you can have insecurities, you can have fears, but you know you're gonna work through those things together. And when I look at the two of you, I see a relationship that doesn't feel childish at all. like it feels grown, like you have not just grown up. It's got kid-like
got Arrested
elements. It's
Development.
fun. It's fun. It's not
fun.
saying it's old and boring, but yeah, it's definitely like you've grown into yourselves, and then you've also grown together, and then you figured out what works for you within that. And this could change in a couple of months, which is the cool thing as well too.
Yeah.
But
Thank you for saying that,
it's really
because we're
nice.
always judging ourselves, trying to be better, but it's great to know that from the outside we're doing well.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I think we are. I feel like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
what exciting, babe? I know, I'm rapping. Yeah, there's my literal exact last thought. We're on the same page right here. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about tea time. Let's talk about the things that are exciting you and lighting you up right now as individuals and as a unit.
Okay, well, Tea Time is our podcast, and it's my passion project. It's my little baby.
We have a production company that we are constantly acquiring IP for, that we are going out into the industry to sell. We from movies to TV shows, but it's really trying to get our feet wet in that space rather than just in front of the camera as a director and then a producer for her. Tea Time allows us to be creative and in front of the camera, and then we go home and we read scripts and figuring out characters from top to bottom.
And text each other about it from your different bedrooms and say like, love it for you. Guys, we did it! We did it! We did it!
I'm gonna bring you a squishy next time.
Right? Okay.
Everybody deserves a
If,
squishy.
as long as it's an insertable one. You give me an insertable squishy.
Oh, I got you, girl.
Hi, lovers!
Wait a minute. First off, are you recording?
I know. Oh my gosh. What usually happens at this point in the episode is we have B-roll of the goodbye, but we didn't have a chance to do that. So now I'm going to share the things that I would have said at that point, and that is to go out and listen to Miranda and Raven's podcast, which is called Tea Time by Raven and Miranda, and make sure you follow Raven on Instagram, which is at Raven-Symoné, and follow Miranda, which is at Miranda, M-A-D-A-Y. And all those links will be in the show notes or in the info box. That to be said, I'm going to shut up. I want to hear from you guys, and then I want to talk about Monoga-mix, which, as you know, I am so excited about. So, but first and foremost, what did you think? What came to mind from you from listening to Miranda and Raven?
I think you would be surprised of how many people don't sleep. And I say sleep, we should say slumber. Don't slumber together. Because when you say you don't sleep together, people think you don't have sex. But you're just not slumbering together. My husband and I have not shared slumbering rooms for years. So we sleep separately, and we have to. We just are totally different. Our schedules are different. Our sleep is different. We're not compatible. So when I saw this episode, it felt validating to me. People do look at you strange, like, what's wrong with you? So I don't go around talking about it, but it's very much a reality for us.
What I think ends up happening with monogamous relationships and straight people, which becomes a disservice, is because you sort of, your foundational principle ends up being the template for society, you don't really get to have enhanced conversations around what you uniquely need, because there's a prescription or a recipe for, you know, success and for what it looks like to be in a relationship that the core element of you fits. So then the rest of it just kind of gets swept up in there. What's often beneficial about queer relationships, non-monogamous or non-traditional relationships, is because you have to dismantle that centerpiece, you end up getting to have the kinds of conversations where you can also dismantle all the other adjoining pieces. So a non-traditional relationship where you have to talk about, hey, I'd like to see other people, or what would it look like to explore sex outside of having an exclusive connection between you and I, can also then throw in, and while we're at it, I think separate bedrooms might be cool. And because that couple has a culture of sort of going against the grain, it becomes easier to weave in these concepts, and you have the culture of having these kinds of conversations. So I thought couples who live apart together, which is something that Cree talked about in the last episode, and that's a form of solo polyamory. And solo polyamory essentially is they can have lots of loving romantic relationships, but they center the relationship with themselves first and foremost. And it felt a little bit like Miranda and Raven's relationship was kind of a mix of like solo amory and also monogamy at the same time. So then I kind of was thinking about what are the different ways that we can think about or talk about remixing monogamy to allow non-conventional elements to fit within monogamy versus meaning you have to abandon monogamy in order to fit inside of a different dynamic.
I love the temperature checks that they were talking about with just having this type of a conversation. I guess when you're in that traditional, monogamous straight relationship, you kind of have, the check boxes that I feel like a lot of people, fill their life with. And they don't really think about, hey, what do I need or what do you need? And start those conversations.
Yeah, I think the temperature checks were really so important. And I loved what they were saying about how you can propose an idea, but don't feel pressured to give me an answer immediately, and just make it a point to come back, a couple months down the line and talk about it again to let it kind of marinate. But one of the things that I was thinking about as they were talking about this is, as a monogamous couple, some of the things for me that society has built, where it's that relationship escalator of get married, have a baby, and buy a house and all those things, I've never subscribed to. And it's a conversation that my husband and I have always had, where we kind of check and see if that's really what we want to do and not what society has pressured us to do. So I think when it comes to monogamous relationships, it's just being overly communicative about what works for you and your partner, rather than just going by whatever society is telling everyone to do, is super important. And I think it works for us, because even with the whole sleeping situation, I always joke that my husband and I live in the same city, but we're on different time zones. He falls asleep 2 hours before I do, and I wake up 2 hours after he does. And that's just been our routine. So we don't currently live together, and we've been married for 6 months. But when we do good morning texts and good night texts, he already knows not to text me until 2 hours after he wakes up, because I'm still asleep. And it works for us. And I think as we consider moving in together, it's kind of nice to be able to have the conversation of all right, what's it going to be like when we move in together? Because while there is that assumption that you have to, be in the same room and sleep in the same bed and sleep at the same time, that's not what's been working for us. So figuring out what it is really where we're at right now. And it's pretty interesting that we're having these conversations in the podcast and all the things, because it's something that we're trying to figure out soon.
It's so interesting that I think we all assume that 90% of the people are doing it the traditional way. And then you get into a room full of people and you're like, oh, kind of nobody is. But we're, afraid to have, I was actually having a lot of, rewatching that episode with The View. I was having so many feelings watching that, because I experienced that so much in my career, especially in the early days of just the ganging up.
Absolutely not. I just have a fundamentally, completely different way of viewing sex and relationships and marriage than you do.
I think I'd be so jealous. We talked about, my husband and I talk about this, not that it wasn't ever an option, but we do talk about the biological urges of men, and I recognize that there's an evolutionary stance, so we laugh about, I fully expect him to check everyone else out all day long. I said, you can window shop all you want, but you ain't buying anything. And he knows that.
How long are you married?
2 years.
2 years.
And see, even that's a little bit against the grain, because traditionally before, if you look at that waitress, you are sleeping on the couch tonight, there is no space for you, there's no dinner tomorrow.
Yeah.
So there is still, I think everyone's kind of finding that space for themselves. And so I do encourage people to try to ask if your friend is doing something different, ask about theirs. There's no, I'm doing it the right way or you're doing it the right way, but let's live a life that's pleasure-based, that works for us, and let's be more assertive, especially as women and as young women, about how we feel celebrated.
I feel like that's a dangerous message to give, to live a pleasure-based life, because it's just self-fulfilling, it's self-seeking, it claims no responsibility on your own actions, even your partner's actions.
Why is your pleasure bad? Why would you?
Oh, my pleasure isn't bad, but that is something that we do together. But to have your relationship built upon the foundation of pleasure, because the first instance that you are not pleasuring me in whatever capacity that is, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, then I just write you off. You're not fulfilling me and my needs. Instead of what a marriage is based upon is two people working together for the unity of good. That's what it's based upon. So it's not about you come into my life to fulfill my needs, nor am I in someone else's life to fulfill their needs, but you work together to build one another up to be the best together as a partnership. That unity becomes one to have a greater good for the purpose of life.
I respect that 100%, but I do think that there's a negative connotation with the word pleasure, as if it means self-fulfilling. For me, pleasure might be giving to someone else, giving to my partner, creating a dialogue. It's a matter of, are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you fulfilled? And does that life, is it linear? Are there a bunch of rules that someone created 200 years ago that we're saying, this is what's going to work for both of us, even though we're completely separate people? So I don't look at pleasure as a self-fulfilling, selfish thing. And again, all that comes out of me, I believe, as a creator's woman is good. So I don't think that what I would desire in a partner would be bad, or that I put someone in a bad situation.
You know, I think that your philosophy is interesting, but I don't know that it works for Americans, because we don't have that kind of upbringing here. You know, I think about the French, for example, you know, the famous relationship between Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir. She was the big feminist, and he is the existential philosopher, and they tried it, and they almost killed each other. Yeah. And they were French. So I don't think that people in this country can pull that off. I really don't. I think it'd be great, especially after you're together for many, many years and things are getting a little boring between the two of you, and then maybe you could pull it off. It would be nice to be able to do it. But even then, I don't think I could.
But you're not recommending it for everyone. You're
that's
saying
what's
that's
amazing about what you're saying, though, because I agree with you, because everybody, and that's why this conversation is important, and I dislike terms like it's not going to work for everybody else, because you don't know. And just like I can't say this would work for you, this would save your life, because you're like, no, it wouldn't. I'm a different person. This is not going to work for me.
So if your man was out with another woman, wasn't sleeping with her, but was having intimate contact in a way, like talking in a certain way, would you be mad then?
I'm going to say no, and I know that's going to sound like a crazy person,
No,
but in all honesty, I think
it's okay with you.
I want them to have experiences that help them grow, but I want to be a part of it. That's the thing. I don't want to be outside of that where there's a secret thing happening. And so if there's an interest there, I want you to come home and talk to me about it, and I want to have the space to say I'm jealous. I want to have the space to say that really bothers me. So that's important.
I think
do you want to be with your partner, this particular person, forever, or do you even just curious, because is this something that's long term and
I definitely consider this as a life partnership. We're just both the exact same. Both of our values align. A lot of what's important works. The partnership works. So I'm extremely happy and effective in this partnership.
Could this house close the doors to others eventually? Could you lock the neighbors out? Let me stop speaking in bad metaphors. What I mean is, could this evolve into, you know what, I was okay with that, and I'm not anymore, and I really want to be...
I think the great with the communication space, that you do have the right to say that. I have the right to have feelings. I'm a person, but we can talk through those versus shutting them down and saying, that's an evil way, you're an evil person, you must not love me enough.
And I see it online, too, with other people who choose to freely talk about the non-traditional parts of their relationship, and the way that people judge and gang up on them or discredit their relationship or question their love. I just totally get how people are like, yo, it is not worth it to say this aloud. But then what happens on the flip side is you have a bunch of people who are remixing tradition, feeling like they're doing something secret and dirty and wrong and othered, when really most of us are doing this. So I just wonder why we don't give each other more grace, if we all know that the copy and paste way is really not what works for most people.
One of the things that was mentioned in the podcast was that they were growing up together in a relationship. And especially if you're in a very long-term relationship, there's a lot of growth that occurs in each person individually and together.
I find that a lot of people, and I think in my age group, it's changing a little bit, where it's usually our relationship is our business. It's nobody's business what we do in our relationship. Therefore, that stops, collective brainstorming about relationships. I understand why Because sometimes, you know, you can have a fight with your partner and you don't want your best friend being like, I hate them because last time you told me X, Y, and Z, and that being a whole thing. But I do find something that's been really interesting is that like people are now open to talking about how the relationships function, not the details, but like function, and about the things that they are looking at and learning about in terms of growing a relationship. I think that's been very productive for me, who is not dating, but is like thinking about what works for me as a person and seeing the different shapes that that takes. So I do think that the driver is that a lot of people are like, it's my business and nobody has to be in my business. But I do think that spaces like this and ideas like Monoga-mix will kind of encourage people to be like, we don't have to talk about the deets, but we can talk about like the structure that surrounds us, or our ethics, or our like boundaries in our relationship, and help other people sort of have conversations about that too.
Thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for sharing as you share. I feel lit up by our time together and just want to tell you that first and foremost. And I want to do a little bit more lighting, but I do want to take a moment to pause and say that I created a quiz about Monoga-mix people to kind of figure out if this may feel like a commitment structure that best describes where you're right now, what you're looking for. So go to loversbyshan.com, click on the resources section and play. And if you really want to play and you want to join us here in the Lovers community to have conversations like these, to have one-on-one time with me, to be a part of workshops that we have, go to loversbyshan.com again and go to the community section. All right, that's all for now. We'll see you next week. And thank you, Miranda. Thank you, Raven. Big shout out to the Lovers by Shan community. This is a space that I created for people who love love. It's for those of us who are passionate about reaching our intimate potential. On my site, you're gonna find an AI trained on 20 years of my work where you can ask any questions. You'll also find free quizzes and resources, plus a place to sign up for my weekly newsletter, and last, but certainly not least, information on the Lovers by Shan community. If you wanna be a part of intimate conversations just like the one you just saw, join the waitlist, and hopefully, I'll meet you soon, lover.
I'm a weird person.
You've never had the fear that someone's gonna leave you?
No, because I'm bomber. If you leave me, that other person must be bomber than me. And good luck. I hope so.
You are afraid Miranda will leave you.
No, I'm not afraid.
Raven, you've got to be afraid.
Why do I have to be afraid?
Because this is...
But if she leaves me, that means she's unhappy and I don't want to keep her in an unhappy state. Why would I be afraid? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to hold that anxiety over her. Or myself.
Yeah.
Afraid and hurt is two different things.
Oh, I'd be hurt.
Yeah.
I'd be hurt as hell.
Maybe afraid of the hurt.
Why are you trying to force us into afraid?
No, I'm not going to be afraid. I would be very hurt, but I also have been hurt in relationships where I held someone too tight and that person hurt me, and I'm not going to feel that way again. And that was one of our problems at the beginning of the relationship. She was like, you don't love me enough. You're not showing jealousy. You're not showing this. I'm like, girl, if you find someone that you love more than me, go find them.
Yeah.
And if I can't give it to you, I just have to be okay with that, and I have to find the person that I'm going to give it to. But I consistently show up, and you will consistently show up as who you are, and we will stay together for as long as we love each other. I just have this over sense of reality that things happen in life. And if I'm afraid of it, and I'm like, oh, my world, I've had a relationship where person had a baby with another girl while he was dating me, and I fell to 260 pounds after that relationship.
I fell up.
And I'm not about to do that to myself again. I love my wife. We'll be together forever, but I'm an autonomous person. We came together as two separate people. Just because I'm married does not make us one person. So I'm going to keep that mind frame. But it also is, I'm in the same gender type of reality, and I know my wife and I know who she is. When I was dating men, I was definitely cautious about what was going on and what I was doing at home, because there is a stigma that they will go out and venture off a little bit faster than most. You know what I mean? But if she leaves me, tell me why. Tell me what you're getting more than me, and I'll talk to you. I'll have that conversation, because hopefully you are clear-minded when you make the decision to leave.